Happy Reformation Sunday. The greatest commandment, according to Jesus, is that we should love God with everything we have and love our neighbor as yourself. On this Reformation Sunday, that greatest commandment is right at the heart of Martin Luther's response to what to do in the midst of a 1527 deadly plague. So how do we treat each other in a time of deadly plague? It's 2020 and we are dealing with another pandemic. What can we learn from Luther for our living today? I think you will find this interesting. There's nothing new under the sun. It was August of 1527 and the bubonic plague had come to Wittenberg, Germany. Everyone who could get out of the village was getting out. The Elector of Saxony, John the Steadfast, ordered the reformer Martin Luther to leave. He refused. Along with his pregnant wife, Katie, Luther stayed in Wittenberg, opening his house as a ward for the sick. A particularly virulent and awful disease, the bubonic plague, killed its victims quickly and painfully, causing high fevers and large weeping boils. It was highly contagious and had an astronomical mortality rate. In the Black Death of 1347, for instance, the disease struck Europe, killing an estimated 60% of its population. The bubonic plague was spread by infected fleas and could also be transmitted through the air. But neither the cause of the disease nor its mode of transportation was known in 1527. What people did know was that being in the presence of someone who was ill was dangerous. The conventional wisdom was clear: stay away from the sick. As a result, healthy people did all they could to avoid the plague. They fled the cities, leaving behind their sick and dying. The shops were closed, doctors refused to see patients, and priests refused to administer the last rites. What Martin Luther did stood in stark contrast. He refused to leave Wittenberg. He chose to stay, to minister to the sick. As others fled, another pastor asked Luther whether it was okay for a Christian to leave. In a letter entitled, Whether One May Flee from the Deadly Plague, he explained the importance of caring for our neighbor. He wrote about the community and taking the necessary steps to protect others, as he emphasized the giftedness of serving. Martin Luther explained his view that it was not necessarily wrong to flee from death, but that one's community and family responsibilities first must be considered. In order to leave or to flee, one was required to make sure that one's neighbors were cared for. Here's a quote: "No one should dare leave his neighbor unless there are others who will take care of the sick in their stead and nurse them. We are bound to each other in such a way that no one may forsake the other in his distress, but is obliged to assist and help him as he himself would like to be helped." Love your neighbor as yourself, he said over and over again in this pastoral letter. Luther was correct. Regardless of one's faith, we are bound to each other. As the current term community spread makes clear, the actions and choices we make have an impact on others. In this vein, Luther emphasized the importance of prevention. In advice remarkably similar to the CDC's guidance of today, he urged people, quote, to take medicine, to disinfect their homes, and to avoid people and places so as not to spread the disease. The admonition to avoid people and places applied only if assistance was not needed. In a prescient passage, Luther described the benefits of hospitals. Quote, he said, "It would be well to maintain hospitals staffed with people to take care of the sick, so that patients from private homes can be sent there." In Luther's time, however, hospitals were few and far between. Today, doctors and nurses are the heroes of our time. While we practice social distancing and work remotely, they head into work each day to care for our sick, knowing there is a high probability that they will treat someone with COVID-19. The plentiful health care currently available in the U.S. wouldn't have gotten Luther's parishioners off the hook. Luther makes clear that while doctors and nurses may be on the front lines, we all have a part to play. We can practice social distancing, wearing masks, and protect ourselves and our neighbors. Further, hospitals can only care for medical needs. They are unable to bring a sack of groceries to a senior citizen or to watch a mom's kids for the afternoon. Let me end with a section that spoke well to the nature of our duty to our neighbor to whom we are bound. Quote, "This I well know, that if it were Christ or his mother who were laid low by illness, everybody would be so solicitous and would gladly become a servant or helper. Everyone would want to be bold and fearless. Nobody would flee, but everyone would come running. And yet they don't hear what Christ himself says. As you did it to the least, you did it to me." When he speaks of the greatest commandment, he says, "The other commandment is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." There you hear that the commandment to love your neighbor is equal to the commandment to love God, and that what you do or fail to do to your neighbor means doing the same to God. If you wish to serve Christ and to wait on him, very well. You have your sick neighbors close at hand. Go to him or her and serve him or her, and you will surely find Christ in him. End quote. Brothers and sisters, may we never forget that we are bound to each other. We are saved by grace, but while on earth we are called to love and care for each other. Love your neighbor as yourself in 1527 or 2020. Amen.